Beck here, and I am going to teach you how to make little doors for the little people of the forest. And I'd like to begin by sharing a poem for you that I've written. I'm really connected to the little people of the forest near my home, the Pisgah National Forest, and I've written a number of poems about my interactions with them. And this one is about making doors. It's titled Pay It Forward. Wooden doors for forest homes are what I make for elves and gnomes. This door's just been repaired by me, so I'll return it to its tree, to keep the breeze from blowing in on little people's kith and kin. So if you see a door with wear, just call up Fairy Door Repair. I offer service free of fees, but in return, if you please, take a sec to offer thanks near large oak trees and riverbanks. To winter breeze and rising moon, sunshine in the afternoon, to creeks that babble, stones that shine, cardinals perched on berry vine, to leaves that crunch beneath your feet, to trees immersed in bittersweet, to trails that call you in to roam for beauty in this place called home, and lastly, with sweet thoughts sincere, thank little people living here. Enjoy. It was 6 years ago that I created my first door for the forest little people. I was inspired by a tiny opening at the base of a huge oak tree. It was late November, and I made the door as a gift to the forest and placed a wreath on it to celebrate the coming holiday. The second door I made was equally simple and was very visible in the bend of a trail behind a local neighborhood. It was well received, and the neighbor children began creating tiny wooden picnic tables beside the tree, painting rocks, making stone sidewalks, and setting up scenes with fairies and elves, which made the tree a destination. The door disappeared, likely eaten by some animals, and it's been replaced multiple times in all types of creative ways by the people of the neighborhood. I began making an abundance of doors, but soon realized that there were things that needed adjusting. First off, Gorilla Glue has a sweet taste to animals, and they'll chew on a door just to get the glue. That's why I now use several coats of varnish. Second, the doorknobs aren't a good idea. One, because the glue around them is challenging to cover with varnish. Two, people want to open the door and the knob is easily pulled off. And so now I mostly paint the doorknobs unless they're going to be used on my own property. Third, I learned it wasn't good to cover an actual hole in the tree that could be used as a refuge for tiny animals. So I began to place doors only on the scars of trees or in mild indentations at the base of a tree. There have been a couple of doors that have remained where they were placed, and there are often a myriad of gifts left at the base of those trees by hikers and bikers who frequent the area. So these are my tools of the trade, the things that I take out on the trail. I have a Sharpie marker and a piece of paper or two so that I can trace the space in the tree where the resident lives and fit it for a door. And then I have scissors that I use to cut the rope ladder strings once I tie it on. I have these nails because it's often the case that I want to secure the door at the base, and I tie the rope ladder to these, so that's helpful, and of course a hammer to hammer in the nails. So those are my tools. That's pretty much all I take out into the woods to help out the little people. When you're first connecting with the littles of the forest and you have a desire to build a door, they've asked that you not build one in a hole like this because that's what other critters in the forest use as their home. Instead, find an indentation in the base of a tree like this, not an actual hole, and then you can trace it to create a door. Or this, a scar in the side of a tree, is also something that you can cover up with a door, and it won't prevent other animals from living there. Here you can see me making a pattern out of a piece of paper and my marker, the tools I carry into the forest. I trace the shape of the door and then take the pattern home to create the door out of balsa wood. Hi, I want to talk for a moment about supplies. These are the things that I use to make the actual fairy door for my clients. And the first thing you'll need is a pattern. I've done just a simple pattern for an area at the base of one of the trees out in my yard. You'll need balsa wood, and I typically use this size. It's 1/2 inch wide by 1/8 of an inch thick. Though you can use 1 inch wide by 1/8 of an inch thick, I reserve this for larger doors, and I don't have as many large doors as I do small doors. So this is harder to come by, but you can get it at your local craft store or you can order it online. I also have some Gorilla Glue, which is really handy for gluing the boards together. This is my X-Acto knife that I can use to cut the balsa wood just how I want it. And I have several beads that I can use for doorknobs, and these are watch hands, which can be used as the hinges of doors. And of course I size them to fit the door. I have different sizes of watch hands. So that's all you need, except for paint. Acrylic paint is great to have, and varnish, a necessity. I'll talk about that later. So I've cut out separate pieces of the balsa wood so that they will completely cover this pattern or shape of the area that I want to create a door for. So that's what that looks like, and now I'm going to glue them together. So these are the pieces I've glued together, and you can see that the pattern fits right on top of those. So next I'm going to take my blade and I'm going to cut out around those. Of course, you want to have a cutting board underneath for that. And a word on the super glue: as you may know, super glue expands, and this Gorilla Glue, and you want to make sure that you use it very lightly when you make this. So I've finished cutting out my door from the balsa wood. Here's the pattern. Here's the door. It's all glued together. And I'm going to flip it over, and I've made this brace that's going to go across the back. This helps hold it together and secure it. So just as it weathers, it could split apart at the seams, and this will help hold it together a little bit better. I have painted an undercoating on this door, and I painted it on both sides. And then I'm going to add the overcoating of paint in a different color. And the reason why I do this is because that way I can sand off a little bit of the overcoat, and it will show through a little bit of that undercoat darker color, and it just makes it look weathered, which is a nice look for the doors. Once I fully paint the door, I use some fine sandpaper and just sand lightly along the door to give it a kind of a rough or worn look. So here's the complete door with its doorknob and hinges, and I've scuffed it up a little bit, as you can probably see, so that it looks worn. And the next stage is going to be to put varnish on it, and I usually put 2 or 3 coats on to make sure that it's sealed well. Once I completed the 3 coats of varnish and let those dry, then I could bring the door out and place it in its indentation at the base of this tree. This door has been fit to its home, and it's about to be delivered to its owner. And this door too has been fit to its home, and I was just attaching the decorations so that they will have a holiday treat when I deliver it. The other thing I wanted to share is that some of the doors to the little people's homes are high in a tree, and so they need ladders in order to get into their home. And this ladder is made of
just a little bit of string, and I usually get some that's got some sort of coating on it so it will last longer because I've had them wear out fairly early, and the residents don't really like that very much because then they have to hire me another time in the year. But this one will probably last over a year at this point. And I've made these with cherry because cherry seems to be a long lasting wood and has some really nice ability to make these tiny sticks for steps, and it's easy to put their little feet on in order to get into their home. So I'm going to be placing this with one of my doors today, and you'll see that on the trail.
As I connected more deeply with the forest and its little people, I began making dolls in their images. I've also written poems like the one I read at the beginning of this video. I'll leave you with this one that I've written in honor of my dear forest friend, Roan. This little elf, his name is Roan, 'cause on his head red hair has grown, has eyes so tiny, fingers 3, and just adores hot rooibos tea. He lives among the spruce and pine, is tattooed where the sun don't shine, his pockets filled with acorn caps and teeny tiny ginger snaps. In warmer months, Roan hides and seeks on forest trails and near the creeks. His tiny friends who live nearby are seldom seen and camera shy, but Roan is apt to show his face in open fields near Queen Anne's Lace. So if you're hunting chanterelle, be sure to bring along a bell. Some littles, when they hear a jingle, come out to the fields to mingle. Please bring some rooibos, just perchance dear little Roan comes out to dance.